don't be scared to reach out for mental health help, because especially after the miscarriage, I was just so worried about something going wrong. Like, I used a Theragun on my hip the other day, and then it sent me into like a spiral of thinking I had shaken the baby up, and I was like crying on the floor. I'm like, this is probably not normal.
Ladies, we are here with, I feel like you guys have to know Kate Morton now. Like, this is, I don't know how many episodes you've been on, but a few. And we're actually coming back to talk about a different topic. So you guys know Kate Morton because she is the founder of Funk It Wellness, a seed cycling company that I know so many of you use. But we wanted to bring some light to a topic about miscarriage and how Hashimoto's impacts pregnancy and how you deal with pregnancy after having a miscarriage and the whole mental health load. And she's just going to kind of walk you through a little bit of her experience. So we really appreciate her coming on with that vulnerability, because I know that's not an easy topic. So I will just let you introduce and share what you want to share.
Yeah. So honestly, I feel like I'm in like such a better place with it. One, I'm coming to you guys also like 19 weeks pregnant with another baby. So I feel like that's like a little helpful and hope for anyone who's like going through this right now. So I have Hashimoto's. I found out only about 2 years ago. Probably the stress of like running my own business. Who knows? Just life.
Yeah,
like
just gave it to you.
just life. But so I don't know about anyone else who's been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, but I've had a really hard time getting mine under control. And my endocrinologist told me that he was like, look, it's going to take some time. By the time I ended up in his office, my antibodies were like over 500. My thyroid was pretty shot. Yeah. Like, and I'll tell you, my antibodies are still high. And I was really scared I was never going to be able to get pregnant. Because I remember I've been told that in the past, like fertility would be an issue. I will say, I think that all the hormone prep that I had just already done, and like you guys are all probably doing because you follow Leah and probably work with Leah, I do think that really saved me. But I'm just going to give you all the full story because I think transparency is key here. So I was still working on getting my thyroid levels like leveled out. We wanted to start trying January 2024. When I went to my endocrinologist, he was like, hey, no, your levels are not where they need to be. My gyno told me the same thing. I actually was so annoyed at them at the time, but really they were like such good practitioners to be like real with me. And they were like, you're not ready. Your levels, we've not gotten them to a stable place yet. Like, you need to just hold on. So I did. And I prepped all year, worked on gut health, seed cycling. I was doing all the things, of course, and exercising, trying to de-stress. And then this was about August. My husband and I packed up all of our stuff. We thought we were leaving Austin. We were going to move out west. We were traveling. We were having so much fun. And I lost my Oura ring in our move. And I didn't realize I wasn't tracking my cycle for like 2 months. So here's the deal. Cycle tracking really works because I got pregnant completely, like, of all the people to get pregnant on accident, like, got pregnant completely on accident, like, didn't know what was going on. My husband told me, he's like, you smell pregnant. I'm like, what does that even mean?
I want to know what that smells like.
I do too. And I literally dropped him off for his fantasy football draft and went back to our place and took a pregnancy test, and it was positive. And I was like, what?
How did you do that, husband?
I was like, how did you know? He called it the second time too. So we were like caught off guard, but really excited. So obviously, like, I hadn't prepped, I hadn't done anything. My thyroid levels really probably still weren't where they needed to be. Got them tested. I didn't have insurance because we were both like in between jobs. It was just like this whole chaos, but we were excited. And then I started bleeding at about, I think I was like almost 7 weeks. And
oh, yeah.
I went to the doctor and they were like, I didn't have any symptoms, which I'll tell you, in my second pregnancy, I didn't really either, but I didn't have any symptoms. It was just strange. I didn't really feel pregnant. And then I just had this feeling like deep down the whole time. We both had this feeling like it wasn't going to work. And I don't know where that came from, but we were living in New York for the summer, went to the doctor, and she was like, it looks like it's a hematoma. You're still pregnant, because my cervix was still closed because I went early. Literally, as I was walking up my friend's 6th floor walk up to her house where we were staying, I was like, something is so wrong. Like, I was in so much pain, which I don't feel like anyone told me how painful miscarriage was. Like, it was so painful. It's what fully convinced me to have a hospital birth at this point. Like, I was like, I need all the things. Like, please help me. So painful, so much blood, and just like so awful. And I just like knew. And so then, but the doctor was like, no, everything's fine. It's just a threatened miscarriage or whatever. And so I called them back and was like, no, I think something's wrong. And then I went back and they were like, yeah, my HCG was already at like 0, like 4 or something, like really low. My body like really effectively pushed everything out, got rid of it. So that was like awful. If you've ever had to go through that at home, I'm just like really sorry because it's just like awful.
Yeah.
Went and had the ultrasound done, but luckily everything had taken care of itself. You guys will not believe this, because I technically had like a chemical pregnancy since it was before 8 weeks. I ovulated again 2 weeks after that.
Wow, that's really
Isn't that crazy? Like full blown ovulation. I went and bought a new Oura ring because I had lost the other one. Full blown ovulation 2 weeks later. And then I ovulated again a week later. My body was just like on a roll. And then I researched it. And after a chemical pregnancy, you're actually 20% more likely to have a live birth if you get pregnant within 3 months of that. So
interesting.
I don't know like what was going on with that, but I wasn't mentally there at all. Like I was like, no, my husband was on the same page. I was like, I need to take some time. Like I want to continue taking these prenatals. I actually started researching about NAC, like NAC. So I started taking NAC, and this is crazy. Nothing has ever brought my thyroid antibodies down the whole time. They've been high. They went from 500 to like 375 after 2 months of taking NAC. And
wow,
I don't know if it's the NAC or what it was, but antibodies started coming down. And then I introduced a probiotic to really help with my digestion. I also got bit by a poisonous spider 1 week after my miscarriage. I know. On like a rooftop drinking wine in New York, like not even camping or anything. It was on my boob. It was like right on my right boob.
Ow.
So I had to like, I took an antibiotic for the first time in 14 years, which like, I'm convinced, I'm not like pro antibiotic all the time, but I'm convinced it just like reset the system.
It's like, let's just clear everything out.
Let's just get rid of everything. And so, yeah. And I didn't have insurance like this whole time. So keep in mind, I'm like just like paying out of pocket, going broke. Being sad.
Yeah, it gets expensive. It gets expensive out of pocket.
Being sad, like whatever. But I was like, I'm going to get through this. So it was my sign to take, okay, we're wiping the slate clean. So I introduced a probiotic. I took the antibiotic. I did NAC. I've been taking the needed prenatal, which I really like. What else? And then I started, so needed prenatal has the methylated folate in it, which we just actually talked about on my podcast, which I didn't know if you have Hashimoto's, you're more likely to have the how do you say that?
MTHFR.
Yes, that gene. And so I was just like, I'm just going to assume that I do because I don't have money to get this tested right now. I did also take folic acid just because at that point I was like, so just worried that like I was going to do something wrong, which keep that thought in your head because mental health is coming. That's like the next thing I'm going to talk about. I was so anxious about doing something wrong. Because I think if you've ever had a miscarriage, you know it's not your fault. Like you know that on like a practical level, but deep down, I just like felt this like really deep sadness and shame and like it was my fault. And then when I got pregnant again, I was just so scared I was going to do anything to mess it up. And it was hard.
It's your body. So it's like one of those things where, my husband has to remind me of this a lot because whenever I feel like we have a twisty turn, he's like, I know like you're the one growing the baby, so you feel like you are solely responsible, but he's like, you have to let go. You can't control all of these things. It's like, it's not up to you, which is really hard. You want a place to be able to balance your hormones naturally. That's why you listen to this podcast. You want a place to ask questions, but you either don't want to commit to a program or you have been held back from the cost of one-on-one coaching, but you still want those results. And that is where Hormone Reset membership is going to change your life. Okay. So I created this for you, specifically for you, based on your guys' feedback and the questions you ask and the support you say that you want. And the Hormone Reset membership, you are going to get the training and the education to balance your hormones naturally. So I'm literally going to be taking you step by step through the training modules on how to go about actually balancing your hormones naturally. But on top of that, you're going to get one-on-one support in the private community. So in our private community, you can be sharing your meals, you can be sharing symptoms that you're having, you can get the feedback on making the changes as you are adapting everything and learning, because that's going to be such a game changer for you, because you could have the information, but you're going to need help navigating and implementing it in your life as you adapt it to specifically what you have going on. And on top of that, I know some of you are like, I just want testing. I want to have your eyes on my health and all of that. So you do have the option as well to add on testing, which is, whether it's hair tissue mineral analysis, you want us to go over blood work, thyroid labs, a hormone panel, a stool test, like whatever you're wanting, this is the place where it's kind of just like stepping into the hormone world and getting the one-on-one support specific to you. And you just get exactly what you need. So if you just want a hair tissue mineral analysis, that's what you get. If you want to add on GI map testing, that's what you get. If you're like, no, I just need the lifestyle and the nutrition and that's what I want to focus on, that's what you get. And we're in there helping you navigate it all in the private community so you can get that one-on-one feedback. And then on top of that, you can also get on some group calls. We have an option to join a group call once a week. Well, we actually have 2 options. Just pick the one that works for you. And you can hop on and ask all the questions. This is great. This is the perfect place for my postpartum and my pregnant moms who are like, I need help, but I'm not quite ready for like a full program, but I need help with the symptoms that I'm dealing with. This is great for someone who's like, I've been dealing with mood issues, period cramps, some gut issues, anxiety, I can't lose weight. This is going to be such a good fit for you. Okay. So you can go to bit.ly/join-HRM. Okay. So that's bit.ly/join-HRM. If that confused you, you can just go to leahbrueggemann.com and literally it will say Hormone Reset membership and you can join there. So I'm excited to see you in there. I know this is going to be a really big game changer for you. I just want to touch on really quick, NAC at 600 milligrams, the dosage that was studied has actually been shown to help support a successful full-term pregnancy for women who have had miscarriages in the past. Like, it is so useful. I always, with my fertility clients, I'm like, let's go on some NAC.
I am like so grateful I found that, and I take it still now, like through my whole pregnancy, I've been taking it, and it's like very inexpensive. It's very easy to find like a good brand. So I'm obsessed with, like, I started taking that and I tell everyone about that who's had a miscarriage. I'm like, just try this. Or even if like you just have Hashimoto's and you're like nervous. So all that happened and I just started this massive 3-month prep. So I had started taking the prenatal when I found out I was pregnant in August. And then I actually got pregnant again in October.
That's pretty close after, like,
yeah, we like
2-ish
really
months.
Yeah, it was like not like we thought in my head, I had thought, okay, this is it. Like, we need to buckle up. This journey's going to be long. It's going to suck. It's going to be hard. No, I mean, it wasn't. Like, it was like we got pregnant literally the first month after. And I know that is not everyone's journey. And I did not think that was going to be mine. So I had already like mentally prepped. So then we found out we were pregnant. Again, my husband also started taking a prenatal, like men's prenatal, when we found out we were pregnant the first time. And I think that was really helpful because so far I've had like a really easy pregnancy, and like reading a lot of these things after, like, I was like, oh, it's really important for you to be taking care of yourself. You're like a big part of the placenta and epigenetics, and which we touched on like on my podcast earlier. So started taking all the supplements and then started really eating 120 grams of protein a day, 30 grams of fiber a day, 100 ounces of water. introducing electrolytes, which, it's funny. I probably should have been doing that all along because I actually feel pretty dang good.
It's like one of those things. Sometimes you need to be pushed over the cliff to be like, I need to do these things.
And then I'm like, oh, I think I should have been doing all these things for my Hashimoto's, but I was like so busy thinking I knew everything to I didn't. So I'm going to hopefully continue a lot of this after I'm pregnant too. But yeah, so that was my journey. And I know there's a lot of misinformation about Hashimoto's and fertility out there too. So I think it is really important if you have Hashimoto's to have a really good endocrinologist and a really good gynecologist/OB you can ask questions to. And the biggest thing for me was mental health though. I am I run anxious naturally. I'm just very I just like to get things done and I want to be really efficient. I want to do things correctly. And pregnancy is the biggest wake up call for that because you really aren't in control anymore. And I've struggled with that a lot of sometimes things are just going to happen the way they happen. Just like you said, we can do everything right and our bodies still can just do other things. So I have I got diagnosed with perinatal OCD, which is I just got really obsessed with trying to do everything perfectly. And so I found a really great therapist to help me with that. So don't be scared to reach out for mental health help because especially after the miscarriage, I was just so worried about something going wrong. I used a Theragun on my hip the other day and then it sent me into a spiral of thinking I had shaken the baby up and I was crying on the floor. I'm like, this is probably not normal. This is probably needs some help.
I don't know if I would say it's normal or not, but honestly, that is the general consensus I get from most women when they're pregnant. It's as soon as they get pregnant, I get some of the funniest questions, which I feel with my first pregnancy, I definitely was there because you haven't been through it and nothing is studied on pregnancy. It's not ethical. It's not even safe. So nothing's studied. So your doctors will pretty much say nothing is safe to you as well, which isn't helpful, right? So you do have to do a lot of that research and use your intuition and you have to look back on what's been done for years and years and years and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I get the funniest questions because it's you just are so paranoid because you're I'm literally growing a human in my body and how do I not mess this up? But
yeah. And I would be that person asking those questions. So if you're listening and you're I have so many questions, I'm that's literally me. And I have asked my OB has a portal and I'm sure they regret having a portal after having me. I'm I asked them all these questions. I woke up in the middle of the night thinking I had a yeast infection and I literally messaged them on the portal in the middle of the night. And then I woke up and I was oh, actually, I think I just was a little irritated because if you've been pregnant, everything starts to change. There's pressure, especially in your vulva and vagina. And
mm-hmm.
I messaged them back, said, please ignore this message. I think I may have prematurely reached out to you. I think everything's fine.
Your doctor is probably just this. They're probably so used to it. They're
she told
so
me that.
Used to it.
I was I'm sorry. I feel I'm message. She's girl, no, this is fine. Ask all the questions. So that's the other thing too. Especially if you've gone through a miscarriage, and you are anxious and if your OB is not helping that, if you can find someone else, I couldn't imagine. I had some spotting in this pregnancy too, in the early trimester, the first trimester. And luckily they would bring me in every time and just make sure everything was okay. And it really helped my mental health, that they just listened to me. So I think my biggest tips are taking care of mental health. You don't have to tell people you don't want to tell. That was a big thing for me. I felt this pressure. I'm oh, I always talk about my life and I talk about my health. And I really wasn't ready to talk about that until recently. And so talk about it with who you want to talk about. But then I also I did mineral testing, which we talked about on my podcast. So I did mineral testing, B12, vitamin D, and iron testing. My thyroid, they test every 4 weeks. They tested it every 2 weeks in the first trimester. I did a lot of testing, and then progesterone, when I got pregnant again, they tested every 3 days for the first 2 weeks so weeks 4 to 6. I found out I was pregnant at like 3.5 weeks because my boobs were tingling. So, and my husband also was like, "You smell pregnant again." And I was like, "Okay, here we
I
go."
just want to know how he does that.
Special talent, because he's 2 for 2.
That is so funny. I mean, they say like actually like animals know.
Yeah, my
So
dog
like
has
we
no
must
idea though.
give a scent. Oh, your dog doesn't.
No, he has no idea. He like stepped on top of my belly the other day.
He's like, "What's going on?" My the youngest kid always knows. So like Landon knew when like he was the little one, and then when I got pregnant with Romaine, Killian seemed to know because all of a sudden he turned into this clingy baby.
Aww.
And I didn't even know I was pregnant. I was just like, "Why will you not leave?" Like he was just like, "You need to hold me all the time. I need to sit on your lap and eat food. I need to hold your hand at all times." I'm like, "What is going on?" And then I got a pregnancy test and I was like, "Oh, that's what's going on."
Yeah. But I think my biggest advice is just like, it's really hard to not let the grief of the miscarriage steal the joy of the current pregnancy. And don't feel guilty if it does a little bit. My first trimester, I felt fine other than I got migraines and was tired, but I was just so nervous. But now I'm really trying to like work on my anxiety with my therapist and like move through these things of like, two things can be true at once. Like I can be nervous something's going to go wrong, and I can also enjoy this and be happy and like, because I don't want to get to the end of this and be like, dang, like I wish I just would have been able to be in the moment more. So that's why it was important for me to get the mental health support. And I'm also like obviously obsessed with the eating healthy part because I'm a dietitian, but I just think the mental health part was actually the bigger part for me.
I don't think we acknowledge how hard it can be, especially when like things don't go according to like what you feel like the plan should be or what is going on. And I definitely don't think that it's talked about enough. But at the same time, I fully recognize why it's not, because like I would say that like 99% of my Instagram doesn't know I'm pregnant. Because like they see videos from like me.
No one knows I'm pregnant yet. And like,
Yeah.
that's the funny part is I kind of keep forgetting to tell people, and then we'll like show up somewhere and then I'm like obviously pregnant now. And they're like, I'm like, oh
What happened to
yeah, I forgot
Kate?
to
You're like,
tell
"Oh, I'm
you.
pregnant."
Forgot.
But it's like, I don't know. You don't have to. Like, you have to know that that season is okay for you and what you want. I feel like the podcast gets a lot more of what's going on because I feel like I can sit and share the whole story versus like people just assuming things or sometimes asking questions. And I am very like protective of that space. And so I don't like, I'll sit and tell the podcast people but I don't really want like random questions and people's like random stories coming in on Instagram because I'm like, I want the positive stories. I want the success stories. I want to like kind of like enclose myself in the positive bubble. And so, and I think people are just trying to like relate and share stories, but sometimes they'll share things and I'm just like, I didn't want to know that. And why did you tell me that?
Like the best intentions can also still be hurtful. And like, I really like early when I was kind of like, oh, I'm just going to share this. A couple times people just said things with the best of intentions. And I knew in my heart that they went well, but they hurt so bad that I was like, I actually don't think my heart can take this right now. Like, oh, at least it was early. At least you weren't trying. At least you can get pregnant, and all these things are well intended. They're not like they're trying to be nice, but like when you're grieving the loss of something you didn't even know you wanted and all these things, it's a lot. So I totally get when to protect your bubble. I became insanely private like after that miscarriage. Like that was in August, and like I don't think I've really posted on Instagram like since. So like I don't know. I get it. Like, I didn't think I'd be this person, but you do get very protective of your space. And I honestly think it's a good thing.
Yeah. And I think also as well, it's okay to put that little bubble out of like, this is what I want to have come in terms of like, conversations and stuff, because I think sometimes people don't realize, and then that also gives them permission to say yes or no. I think they don't realize that it's not just something you have to hide from. It's a conversation that you can have. I've literally put that at the beginning of like every episode. If there's like a trigger warning, I'm like, if you want to stay in a positive pregnancy bubble and you don't want to like talk about these types of things, don't listen to this episode. Like I think it's important. That. I think it's very important. But all of that to say is, you're not alone. And, Kate obviously is a registered dietitian and she knows a ton of things. And, sometimes we still go through hard times, even if you feel like you know all of the things and you can do all of the things, you still can go through hard times. So you are not alone there. And I'm really glad that you had that support team, because I think that I don't know if you ever get this, but people are just so shocked that I have an OB. Like, people
really?
are just like, you should be the crunchiest person and have a home birth with a midwife in the water.
I do keep getting asked that. And I'm like,
no.
I have a doula, but I'm going into a hospital. No.
I don't know. But I think it's funny that people just have like this idea, like based on what you do, like how, do you feel uncomfortable in a hospital setting? Because like, I mean, I guess you haven't been in that full like room yet, but like, I don't. Like,
I worked in one for so long that I don't. And like, my thing is like, I mean, if you've listened to anything on this, if you've taken anything away, I am like an anxious person. And like, I just like, I wish I was like the home birth person. I want to be that person, but I'm not. And I need all of that support. And I also, I worked in a hospital for so long. Luckily, I don't have a lot of like negative association or memories with the hospital. I think that could be really tricky if you have like a lot of like negative experiences in a hospital. We'll see. I'll update you guys in July, like after August, after the baby comes. We'll see. But I'm excited. I saw the labor and delivery rooms and they were really nice. And everyone's like, are you not getting ultrasounds? I'm like, well, no, I am, because I am anxious. But I do take a lot of choline, like you said, so that's good.
Yeah. Do lots of choline. I don't feel uncomfortable in them. I've loved all of my labor and delivery teams. Like, I just think they're amazing and I've loved them all. And I definitely think that in a hospital setting, you do have to be a very strong advocate for yourself. And you have to be very clear, like, this is what I want and this is what I don't want. And I do that. And my husband knows like my birth plan, because honestly, he's like my voice. I go into a bubble once I reach like 6 centimeters.
That makes sense.
And I'm just like, don't talk to me. But I think as long as you advocate for yourself, like you're going to be okay. And it's just where you're going to feel the most comfortable, is important. So,
well, thanks for having me and letting me talk about all this. It's been great.
We will follow along and we'll update on how the hospital goes afterwards.
Yeah, we'll keep you all posted. We'll let you in. Podcast guests only.
Thank you so much for hopping on.
Thank you.